The honking will continue until freedom improves.
What is Trudeau going to do? Do you think he's going to address this? Because I hate to say this, the optics of that would be really terrible. It's just like families holding hands and singing songs. It's like, go break this up. I would love to see what people do if you break this up, Trudeau.
Well, what's interesting and quite terrifying is, I've been involved in politics in Canada. I ran for the Conservative Party, so I know, what was the Conservative Party when it was Conservative? And so I know a lot of these people, how they operate. We all talk, and I know a lot of journalists. And apparently what happened internally in the Liberal Party is Trudeau, or as I call him, Fidel Jr., wants nothing more than for there to be violence. And he apparently was losing his temper. So his inner circle, Jerry and Omar, the PMO staff, basically told him, Justin, we're going to find a political solution to this, meaning we're going to cut their funding through GoFundMe. Why don't you go on vacation? And so first they said he has tested negative for COVID, so he's going to quarantine. Then 24 hours later, he was going to go on vacation to Tofino. And then 24 hours after that, he tested positive for COVID and had to isolate. So that's what we're waiting. Yeah, we're waiting for him to come out of hiding, and maybe he'll see his shadow and he'll make a decision.
Wow. Meanwhile, all he's done is smear you guys as hateful, fringe, minority, whatever else. On the topic of the hateful people, the Confederate man and all the rest, do you think, is he a plant or what's the nature of the hateful people that are walking around? Is it a hoax? Are they fake or what's going on there?
I don't know if it's hateful people or maybe person. I think that's the first thing.
The one guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the Confederate flag is hysterical because this is Canada.
I know.
But that's completely in line with the amount of historical knowledge that people on the political left have. So I wouldn't be surprised, right? The guy with the Confederate flag was booed and smeared, which I actually don't agree with either. But there are people who have families that fought during the Confederacy for legitimate reasons, right? But anyways, there are people who gave him a hard time because they knew this was just somebody trying to plant a smear on them. And my suspicion was he was wearing a black balaclava, so that must have been Justin Trudeau, looking exactly like him, right? And then there was the hoax hate swastika. Yeah. And it was some guy in the back of a truck in a far parking lot, nowhere near any of the protest areas. And it just so happens a guy was taking a picture who looked exactly like Justin Trudeau's chief photographer. Like twins. It's amazing how that happens, right? You think maybe they're related? I mean, I don't know. I don't know definitively. But these are the types of games that go on. And then all the NGOs and, diversity groups and whatever that are aligned with the Liberal Party, then the smear machine starts up. And I happen to know a lot of those people, so I've been just tooling them in my interviews and online. And I've been very aggressive because I don't care. and it's working.
Yeah, that's what they've done. They've conditioned us to not care. And people that don't care, maybe they are more dangerous than they think we are.
Maybe. Well, we just had a meeting with our legal team and accountants. They want to go over the press releases and different strategies, and they have no idea how my strategy operates. And I've given them a little bit of an idea. And they said, we need to do a press release to respond because they're calling us white supremacists and all that sort of stuff. And I said, listen, the minute you do that, you're stepping into their frame. Mm-hmm. We're owning the frame. And the reason we own the frame is because the CBC and the Toronto Star, our fake news, I banned them from our press conferences. And they went crazy. And it was beautiful. They couldn't handle it. So what I'm trying to do is prop up independent journalists, smaller creators, guys like yourself. And it's been working really well. And we had we're going to have a second one tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do after this, is send the invites. Our first press conference was 2.5 hours long, not 15 minutes. There was no CBC coming in with their 30-foot tall phallic symbol of a camera and 5 people and taking half the floor space and calling us names, because they're going to do that anyway. So it's just disruptive. And what's going to happen? They're going to do a story and nobody watches it.
Right.
So there's no upside for me, right? Like, you guys dwarf the CBC. You yourselves.
I don't know about that. Maybe on the Canadian exchange we do a little bit better. But,
Yeah. So I asked one of these veteran reporters who I've known for quite a long time, right-wing, center-right, conservative, objective, but really good journalist. And I said to him, his name's Andrew Lawton. He works for True North. Mm-hmm. And I said, Andrew, how was that press conference, like this format that I did? Did you like it? And he says, that was the best press conference I've ever had. Because what my philosophy was, we're going to sit back, we're going to have coffee, you ask us anything. And we have all the time in the world. You want 5 hours, 6 hours, I don't care. If we don't know the answer, we'll tell you. If we know the answer, we will tell you. And that's it. And that's, I think, how it should be, but maybe I'm crazy, right?
What were the actions of the CBC and the Toronto Star specifically? Why them? Why did they get the ban?
Okay, so the Toronto Star, Jordan Peterson posted this cartoon meme that was really disparaging towards truckers. Typical, Nazis, referring them to Nazis and all that sort of stuff. And here's the people who feed you in the country, you're calling them Nazis.
Yeah.
And the CBC, I just don't like them. So I figured, why invite them anyways? But they both were also running stories the entire week in the very beginning with GoFundMe, because we did get $1 million out of GoFundMe. And they were running this story saying that, the hateful, white supremacists who are dancing in the streets feeding the homeless, they are being blocked by GoFundMe. They've been frozen from the very beginning, like the first day, because of nefarious entities associated with this group. And the team around me said, we need to respond to this. I said, no, let them dig their own grave. I've used GoFundMe before. I know they have certain protocols and banking regulations, and it takes 7 to 10 days, and they always drag their feet. So just let them do it.
Yeah.
So they ran this. It became almost a national story that these white supremacists were being, blocked by GoFundMe. And then when the funds got released, I had the press release ready saying, thank you for GoFundMe. You've been great to work with as we've been trading our paperwork back and forth. We're really confused why the fake news media would be running these stories while you blocked us. But maybe that's a lesson for everybody else not to watch the fake news because it's bad for your mental health.
Wanted to ask you a little bit more about this Ottawa. Well, I guess you tell me.
I'm making Matt uncomfortable. I can see he's already getting a little uneasy.
Oh no, I do it all the time. Matt is uncomfortable for a living. It's fine.
I suppose there's some truth between all of you in the chat. There's never a moment to rest. But you mentioned the politics of Ottawa. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit because now you have the Ottawa police chief saying there's a potential for military intervention, although it was totally unclear what was meant by that. Mm-hmm. But this is reported in the Toronto Star. Ottawa police may seek military assistance as Freedom Convoy protesters dig in. Do you know what that's about or what to expect?
I do, and I think that's how you know it's fake. It was reported in the Toronto Star. That's the first
well, fair enough.
Right?
Next question.
Really. The police chief is a lunatic. I have a brother who's a police officer and a nephew who's a police officer. So I'm very much in that culture and I know how they operate. And we all know how to talk to each other, sort of thing. The ground forces, the frontline police officers have been great. They were a little bit worried the first couple of days because they didn't know where things would go. But so many of these truckers are from veteran backgrounds or veteran families. They have family in policing. They understand the importance of community. They all have families, that sort of thing, right? Kids and stuff like that. And it was amazing the amount of community outreach that they did in terms of cleaning up the city, cleaning up garbage, just being good to other people. And very quickly, the police realized that, okay, this isn't your usual, BLM Antifa trash. These are actually educated people. Who know how to behave in society. So there was a time, I think it was the first Sunday night, they were considering moving on the truckers. And they did what they do, a bump intel thing cops do all the time. They're just kind of reading people around and saying, what are you guys doing tonight? And I said, it wasn't me, it's some people I know were on the ground said nothing. We are going to, there's nothing planned. We're just parked here. That's it. We're going to sleep. And they asked a number of us saying, you haven't even know, we're just here waiting for Justin Trudeau and, taking care of the city, cleaning it up, and that's it. So the police realized very quickly that, okay, this isn't a, mostly peaceful protest. And they backed off. And 30 minutes later, the few battalions that had been lining up just got in their cars and drove away. It was amazing. It's been quiet ever since.
Well, now you got the chief threatening to investigate and prosecute any of those friendly cops. They can't bring you food or water or anything like that. What would be the crime with which to charge them if they did bring you a sandwich?
I don't know. I have no idea. I did put on Twitter a prediction. My prediction about Aaron O'Toole, which we can talk about later, was correct. And I think this one will be correct. I basically said the soon to retire to be home with his family police chief of Ottawa is likely going to take early retirement. And community policing is about de-escalation, not escalating directly into conflict. So the fact that he's still there is shocking. And you talk about a police force that is not behind their chief now. You can feel it in the air. And they're great. They're coming fist bumping, hanging out, whatever. And it's been just a great vibe the entire time. And the police seem quite relaxed. We haven't seen any, we saw zero incidents. And since the trucks came in, the report came out, crime has gone down.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, that's an obstacle for the narrative, I suppose. Before we run out of time, I want to make sure that people are aware how they can support you. If perhaps they've already donated to the GoFundMe and they get refunded, or if they haven't supported yet and they want to know how to do that now that GoFundMe has ended your relationship. What's the best way to do it?
Well, we switched over to Give, Send, Go, which is a competitor to GoFundMe. Smaller operation. We know the CEO personally, and he set up the Give, Send, Go for us.
Great.
And immediately got brigaded with DoD attacks, and also the amount of donations well overloaded their server and bandwidth. So we got $1.5 million so far in the first 12 hours, I think it was, and that's all they could process. Because I couldn't get on the website for 7 hours. I would get an error every time just because it was so overloaded. And
you guys are an unsupported fringe minority, though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're not blackface diversity. What can I tell you? And we also have a large number of people. I mean, they see on my profile, I put Bitcoin, and then in the Bitcoin space. By the way, buy Bitcoin, guys. So we had some people reaching out to me the entire week saying, "Hey, we're collecting Bitcoin for you," and not just one group, multiple groups. And one I just met today they're very established and well-known figures in the Bitcoin space. And so far, I think they set it up yesterday. They set up the equivalent of GoFundMe, but in the Bitcoin space. And last I checked, I think it's about $120,000 in Bitcoin's already been contributed.
Wow.
I opened a wallet while I was in the hospital. I'm thinking, okay, well, what can I do? I got to do something. And I'm with a bunch of, I love them, but they're basically boomers. I mean, they're Gen X, but they're boomers. So they don't know what Bitcoin is. I'm like, I got to do something. So I'm in bed waiting to go into the X-ray room. I'm like, okay, I'm going to set up a wallet specifically for this. I went into the X-ray room. I came out, and there was $2,000 in there just by doing one post on Twitter. So people are very motivated.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason is, and I want to answer something you guys are probably wondering.
Is it a PSYOP? That's question number one. Is it a PSYOP?
Blonde, it's not a PSYOP. I was listening to that in my truck, and I'm like, oh, what the hell, Blonde? No, not everything.
I'm so cynical. Okay, it just had to occur to me, and it's already gonna get infiltrated, but you guys are on it, so.
You really got to take that as a compliment, and I hope that you're able to forward that message to everybody involved here that. We are all so jaded, and it's so refreshing to see something that is just people standing up for themselves, making a difference, organizing, that that concept is so far removed that you see that and you think, well, it's got to be that the powers that be want me to enjoy this.
Nefarious forces are
there's got to be some evil
here,
angle.
yeah.
That's why you should take it as a compliment, because you've achieved the unachievable. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you do it with a positive narrative and a positive vibe, some amazing things happen. Like our country, you guys wouldn't know this because it's really not important. Let's be honest. But Canada's always had this issue with separatist movements in Quebec and now forming in Alberta, and the Quebecers hate the Albertans and Saskatchewans hate the Merricks. Everybody hates each other, right? But the first day I was here, I couldn't believe it. I saw people, the government's been playing all these little tricks. We're going to block this bridge and this highway. And, ooh, there's an oil spill on the 416. No cars for 3 days, like that sort of nonsense, right? But when I finally got in here, those people in Quebec who, by the way, couldn't leave their house. You know how authoritarian it's been there. Viva Fry's been talking about.
Yeah.
They decided, screw it. They left their cars on the bridge. They got out and they walked into Ontario. And there was thousands of them. I have a picture of it, holding a Quebec flag and a Canadian flag, walking up to Parliament Hill to meet their brothers from Alberta and Saskatchewan. They started hugging each other. And I took some pictures of guys that one is holding a sign that says freedom. The other says liberté. And these are the two people who are supposed to hate each other.
Yeah.
And even this morning, we went to Tim Hortons because we're Canadian. And I didn't, but the girl who was here with me went to get Tim Hortons for us. And she said to me, I saw it again. I was in line. There were two truckers, one guy French, one guy, she said, he looks like he's from Alberta or Saskatchewan or whatever, from the prairies. And they were talking to each other, but one didn't speak English, one didn't speak French. They were using Google Translate. And you could tell they've been doing this for a few days. So they're hanging out with each other. Now, what is Google Translate saying? I don't know. He is white supremacist. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. We should surrender immediately and go home.
Yeah. And then the other thing was in relation to that, it was so amazing for us. Like I love, there's a lot of Canadians in urban centers that have this angst about the United States. I love the U.S. I think it's the greatest country in the world. And I couldn't believe, how patriotic Americans are, right? There was a convoy that started a few days ago in the U.S.
Yeah.
Going up to it was the Montana border.
Yeah.
And they were decked out with Canadian flags.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I'm not an advocate of diversity in any sense of the word, but if we can all get together to band against the federal government, now there is something that's
right.
The real unity that matters, and you guys are achieving it.
It really is.
We are up against the clock, so we will have to end it there. But that is our guest, Benjamin Dichter, official Jen Psaki of the Canadian Freedom Convoy. Benjamin, where should people go if they want to learn more about the convoy or they want to follow you personally? Is there any sort of link you want to shout out before we let you go?
Yes, go to GiveSendGo and search for the convoy to Canada. Also, the way we've been subverting the censorship is we didn't create a centralized, Twitter account or Facebook or whatever. We've been using our personals and changing these dynamic hashtags and just changing them up a little bit once in a while. So follow my Twitter or Tamara's Twitter are really the main ones. And then the Quicken Report for updates on security and all that sort of stuff. So BJ Dichter is one Twitter account. The other is Tamara_MVC. And the last one is at Quicken Report on Twitter. And yes, Twitter is leftist hell. That's why I'm using it, because I know if we get the leftists angry, then I can bait them into all of this stuff.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for making time for us, and thanks for fighting the good fight. Appreciate it.
We're going to bring it to the U.S. next, buddy. Actually, Australia. I got to get on the phone with them in an hour. So
good luck. That's the one thing you can't achieve. Not happening.
They have road trains. Good luck. Good luck towing the road train.
You're going straight to the quarantine camp is what's happening. See you there.
All right, guys.